Hey everyone, Dan here. Today we're going to take a look at three stocks that I think might have the potential for an upcoming short squeeze. We'll talk about what the stats look like that lead me to believe that, and then look at the charts and sort of see where those are at and what may have to happen in order to kind of seal the deal to make that short squeeze a reality. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. That helps a lot. And let's jump right in. So the first one on our list is Tattooed Chef. Let's take a look at the stats first. So, Tattooed Chef, the first thing that jumps out to me with regards to the short interest is this huge increase, change from the last month of almost 36%. So that's obviously a big jump up. You see over here on the chart, you'll see the Q1 variance there in the dollar volume being sold short. So it is the highest that it's been on this chart. And the percentage of the float that's being shorted is nearly 18%. And as I've talked about before, 10% is considered significant. So anything over 10% is considered significant. Anything over 20% is pretty eyebrow raising. And so this is getting really, really into that territory. If you want to see what the percentage increase looked like over the last few months, here's where you see it. The dollar volume has well over doubled. The percent of float shorted has more than doubled. And so, and obviously it has started to tick up. So those are the important factors with sort of the increase in interest. And then in terms of fees, that's the other thing where we want to see how expensive is it for folks to borrow these shares. And then that's obviously what they're gauging their potential profits against, is how expensive it is to hold them versus how much money they could make by closing it out profitably. But you see this red line with a huge run up. It was at about 3% here for quite a while, and then started to inch up, and then just exploded recently, coming up over 20% and now nearing 50%. And so that gets quite expensive for folks to hold, especially if Tattooed Chef can hold its ground price-wise. Could cause folks to not want to take a big loss on their trade and close out those positions in order to stop incurring the fee. Let's take a look at the chart over here. Basically, this is the 3-month, 2-hour chart. Obviously, this push down, this channel that you see here, this down channel, has been interrupted. It worked itself out and then sort of followed it down for a while. But then, in very, very recent days, so since still about the middle of May, so not too long ago, it started to form what could be an up channel of its own. This would be pretty steep, so it might sort of flatten out a little bit. But I don't, as you may know from watching this channel before, I don't like when a stock leaves the channel and then comes down and starts hugging the channel again. It's just as though it never left it. And so what I'm going to be looking for is for it to build within this new up channel. That would tell me the price strength is real and is there, and could be ushering in a green period that could allow the pressure on those shorts to increase. As you would imagine, on the RSI side, it started to creep up a bit, but it's still within relatively reasonable territory where it could just get a dip down about mid-range and then push up again from there. And on the MACD, we're looking nice and bullish here. So it's curling down a little bit toward the signal line, and but that's to be expected. At some point, the bullish or the bearish momentum has to trail off and sort of take a breath and then sort of reignite. On sort of the micro chart, coming in a little bit closer, you'll see this nice push up. So there's a nice channel here as well that I would look for it to keep holding. Here you see it's sort of like testing down toward the lower bound of that today, after topping out here. But the nice thing is it topped out here still above where it had topped out there, and the highest that it's been on this short chart anyway. So it's doing a good job of holding its ground there, and if it can continue to hold ground, that's going to put a lot of pressure on these high fee short sellers to keep pace with it. on the RSI side of things, very low because this little dip today, so that could give us some buying pressure coming in soon. And then on the MACD, sort of like undulating bearish pressure there, but it looks like there could be a potential bullish cross coming here that could give us a nice push toward the upper half of the channel and force some of those shorts to close their position. All right, so that's Tattoo Chef. The next one that I want to look at is Skillz. So let's go in the same order here. Let's take a look at Skillz. And so Skillz is down today, whereas like Tattooed Chef had been up. But, that's to be expected if it's heavily shorted. So if we go here to short interest, and sorry for all the pop-ups, big change again, month to month. This one is, for all intents and purposes, basically at 20% of the short being floated, of the float being shorted, and the dollar value is getting quite high. So that's quite a different situation than we saw with Tattooed Chef. Over $700 million of short volume as it pertains to the dollar value of those shares. So a lot at stake there. And then if we come on down, we'll see like there are huge bumps here, as you see. So while it has trailed off, I mean, the fact that it was able to bump up 20% in January, and then another 47% in March, and then 60% by the end of March. The fact that it's still able to come up almost 30% in April is insane to me. Decent amount of days to cover still, with such a high percent being shorted. On the fee side, let's take a look at what these folks are having to deal with in order to try to profit from these borrowed shares. So here again, you see a huge skyrocket in the fee coming up where it had been, again, like low single digits for a very long time. And then it just basically went parabolic and got up to 30%, and now it's pulled back a little bit to 28. But that starts to be a pretty high fee for such a high dollar value being shorted. And approaching that 20% is always a factor in these things. So I would keep an eye on that as the fees coming up and the interest is still increasing. But what we're going to need on this side of things is for Skillz to hold its ground and or show some price strength in order to put pressure, because if the price just keeps going down, then there isn't going to be any reason for them to close out their position any faster than they have been. You see there's obviously this huge downtrend here. It's basically still caught in this channel, so that hasn't really changed. It's just toward the top of the channel right now. So as you see, it had this like double bottom situation here recently, which it's trying to build off of in order to get itself out of this channel, out of this down channel. But basically it's running in right now to bumping its head up against some resistance, the same area where there was resistance here, same area where there was support here that gave us this decent jump up here. So not surprising that that's a level that's playing a role here. So basically what we're going to look for is to get true support over 1607, and then that should allow it to work itself at least sideways and out of this channel. And sometimes the sideways action is enough to put the pressure on the shorts if the cost to them to hold these positions is high enough. The RSI side, it is coming up because we have a little bit of a green action today. On the thing we were just looking at, it said that they were in the red today, which they were at some point, but now they're actually green. You see that 1542 price point is green. And the MACD obviously showing that bullish push. That bullish push is increasing from these areas here. The bearish has died down. If you sort of like look at those couple of situations, we'll see what happens when the MACD and the signal do their kissy face pattern here, if it can jump off again, sort of like it did here, or if it's going to take a bit of a bearish cross and take a breath and come down a little bit. It's okay if they take a breath. What I would look for it to do is for it to hold its ground here, with a ton of support here previously. And so I'd look for it to hold there. So you have a tight little range between 1463 and 1607 where we want it to kind of at least keep bouncing around between to still, like I said, put the pressure on those shorts with the increasing fee to have to close out and buy a bunch of shares of the stock. So let's go to the 5-day, see what's happening in the near term, because this thing would probably play out here in the nearer term. So, a little bit of some pressure coming down from like this topping out here. So putting in a little bit of a like challenging downward pressure line here. So if it can come up, toward open or throughout the day tomorrow, we would want it to break this downtrend line that sort of ends tomorrow at about 1550, we'll call it. So if it's able to establish over that, then that could give it another attempt back at the 1613 topping out mark and see if it can get some true upper pressure going there. On the indicator side, RSI coming up pretty high because we have a little bit of a run going here, but that's okay. And on the MACD, nice bullish push coming up, started below the baseline, so it had a lot of potential energy built up there. So I would, hope that it could push up over this previous high here, which would give it still quite a bit of room to run and would let it test that downtrend line. We're already in power hour today, so I don't know that it would give it an opportunity to do that today, or if it's just going to get timed out, but we could still see what happens, in the wee hours tomorrow. All right, so that is Skillz. And then if we pop into the next one, ATNF, let's just get ourselves set up here. And then let's pop over and take a look at ATNF. Right, so ATNF, short interest, goes like this. Look at that big swing up. So this is like, a small dollar amount, but the price of the stock itself is only $7 a share. As you see, it's like down quite a bit today. And that's because of all this, partially because of all this short pressure coming in. 33% of the float being shorted. That's well over our $10 and still well over our $20 really eyebrow raising level. Like I said, the dollar amount is small, but a smaller amount of float plus smaller share size will account for that. But nice tick up from the previous month. And then if you look at sort of the history here, huge increase at the end of February, and then still managed to keep bumping up since then. So you see that huge shift and has just been on quite a tear in terms of their ability to continue to push up the pressure on the short seller side of things. So ATNF, let's take a look at the fee situation. I may have a sneeze coming on. We'll see. I'll do my best to muffle, but I don't do much editing for these videos. So, but as you see here, again, low single digits for quite a while. Big push up to 63. So these are the highest fees that we've seen in this video. A slight pullback, but still at 45, and then another big push up, slight pullback, another big push up. So today we're sitting at 92% fee. So very, very expensive for these folks to borrow these shares. But as you see, it's been working out for them, right? The price has been getting pushed down and down and down, has a pretty big red day today. So let's take a look at the chart and see what may have to happen if they're going to get any pressure that could allow them to turn things around. So ironically, it is sort of like it does have like an uptrending line here. If we just want to look at a trend line from way down at this 1350, if that bounce holds, that still establishes an uptrend line. Now, that said, it has like an entire array of these things, like the sun, that it wasn't able to hold. So, sorry. I can sort of show you what I mean there. So it had, also these ones. If we want to kind of lump those together. So it has all these that it's already broken through. that didn't hold. So that's not to say this one may not be able to hold, but that would be the first thing for it to at least get this turned around and establish itself an uptrend line from that previous 351 low. On the other side of things, it does have like a bit of a down channel going here, obviously, that it's not like super well positioned in right now. It's been in this channel here, so it still is sort of like toward the mid-range of that channel. So it would need a lot of like upper pressure to get itself working out. If we look at the MAs, I know we didn't on the others, but I felt like the chart was showing us enough there, but this sort of raise of trend line situation makes me want to look at the MAs. So we are, recently in I guess April to May, dipped below the 180, which is the longer term trend line. And so it is, in a bearish situation, obviously. But there is a little bit of a bullish cross here, the 12 crossing over the 20. So there could be some hope from this push up. But what it's going to need to do is establish on top of that 20 and get that 12. You see how it's already curling back a little bit. You want it to then put pressure on the 50 to cross over the 50 and then move sort of in a more bullish formation. RSI is mid-range to low, as you would imagine, and the MACD has a lot of selling pressure in it and not a lot of bullish pressure. Still in negative territory even after this push up today. So we'll see what the next sort of like attempted bullish push could have in store, but it's going to need, doesn't really have any momentum to be building off of right now. It's going to have to establish that. But that's why I wanted to see about potentially catching this one early, because the fee is so high, and this is the only one that we're talking about today that's over 30% of the of the float being shorted. So yeah, you see this like falling off a cliff here. So there could be a potential for sort of like a flagging out pattern coming here. I'm a little bit reluctant to even like mention it because these aren't high probability like setups with these like flag outs. But like there's something to look at. So like at open tomorrow, basically, is it establishing above or below 775 would be a question. If above, it could give itself some ability to start trekking up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it should have some decent support like right here as well if it needs it. Right about in this area here, 761. But yeah, it's definitely not the prettiest chart, that's for sure. Let's take a look at the indicators. On the RSI side, you're about mid-range, and on the MACD, kind of everything just flattening out as it goes through this like little consolidation area here over the last couple of days. Not much of anything really happening. And even then, when the MACD did have this big bullish push up, all that was after hours and pre-market activity that then just kind of quickly got extinguished in a way. And now it's going sideways. But I wanted to sort of bring this one up to folks' attention because it's a stock that like has never been on my radar anyway. But if it has any like foothold established and the short interest stays high and the fee stays high, that could bring in the potential for a short squeeze as folks feel that they need to close out their positions in order to not risk more capital. All right, well, that will do it for this video. Good luck if you get into any of these plays. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I will see you in the next video.